You love the house, you want the house, but it's a multiple offer situation. What do you do? Today I'm going to give you 5 great tips to set yourself apart and give yourself the winning offer. In a strong seller's market like we're seeing right now, multiple offer situations are popping up on almost every transaction. You've done your research, you found your home, and now that you've given that seller the strong offer, you receive the dreaded call that tells you that other offers are being considered. Ugh, what do you do? Today I'm going to give you 5 quick tips that'll give you the best odds of winning the negotiation, putting your offer at the top of the pile. But first, we've got a disclaimer. Anytime you increase your price, that's going to be the obvious solution to garner the most amount of attention from a seller, right? So in this video, I'm looking at all the other things you can do to get that attraction from that seller. All right, so let's start with number 1, the closing date. For a lot of buyers and sellers, moving the closing date left or right on the calendar a few days or weeks really isn't a big deal. But when it is, man, it can be a deal maker for you. Always have your buyer's agent ask the listing agent what the ideal closing date is. Most listing agents will have no issue telling you what that ideal date is. And if you're able to accommodate that date and that closing date is extremely important to the seller, you might have the winning ingredient. It also makes you look like a buyer who's willing to work with a seller when possible. And this can obviously go a long way when that next hurdle in the transaction pops up. Building that good, strong rapport with that seller on day 1 really gives you a lot of leeway down the road throughout the transaction. Listen, I love giving you guys great home buying and home selling information that helps with the entire process. If you want to help get me in front of a bigger audience and help even more people, I'd appreciate if you're watching this on YouTube right now, get down there and hit that subscribe button. And if you're on Facebook, I would love it if you shared this. Seriously. Thank you so much. Number 2, who's paying for title, baby? There are a lot of smaller fees involved in a real estate transaction for both the buyer and the seller. While many of these fees are negotiable, every region has its norms, and most of the real estate agents in your area are going to assume that fees A, B, and C are covered by the buyer and fees D, E, and F are covered by the seller. So while I use the title closing fee as an example, if you're willing to pick up any of the smaller fees as a good act of faith, the fee itself may only be a few $100, but that gesture alone can go so far in creating that rapport you're looking for over the long haul with your seller. Sellers don't always go with the offer that nets them the most. And when they don't, it's often because there's something involved that's really pulling on their heartstrings. So offering to pay a fee that's traditionally covered by a seller can be that little thing that pushes your offer closer to their heart and eventually to the top of their list. Number 3, let's talk personal property, baby. People's homes are often filled with their stuff. Some sellers look at their personal property as priceless treasure, but others view it as a pain in the butt that they got to coordinate movement for. They are looking at loads of time, loads of effort, and loads of money to coordinate and transport their goods. The real trick here is asking the listing agent what the plan is for that seller's goods. And then listen closely for any pain points. What's hurting them? How can you help? I've had sellers who would unquestionably drop the price if they knew that they didn't have to worry about moving out all their stuff and throwing it in a dumpster, right? And I've had others who've had $50,000 worth of furniture and they'll gladly sell it for $5,000, $10,000 if it doesn't mean a headache for them. If transportation of their goods and all the coordination involved is a pain point for these sellers, this may be a great way to separate yourself from the pack. And if they don't want it, offer to take it. If they do want it, offer to let it all go, right? Do whatever it is they need as long as it's also making you happy. Number 4, you gotta get that escalation clause. All right, so let's start with what an escalation clause is. Let's start with an asking price of, I don't know, $400,000. Now you want to ensure that you, as the buyer, are going to get that home. You're gonna win. And while you know it's a hot commodity, you also want to limit what's coming out of your pocket at the end of the day, right? So you will go as high as $420, but you want to stay as low as possible. So what's the solution? Boom, that escalation clause. An escalation clause will allow the buyers to offer $400,000 right off the bat, but the offer automatically increases $1,000 higher than the next best offer, capped at $420,000. You set the increasing increment, the starting price, and the cap, putting you in the driver's seat on price. In this scenario, as long as nobody offers more than $420,000, You might get beat in other areas, but you will not be beat in price. Now, it's important to note that escalation clauses are not legal in every state, and they certainly have their risks and rewards. So discuss this strategy and your personal circumstances with your realtor before making any real decisions. All right, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let them lease it back. Some sellers want to ensure they nail down that successful closing and get that cash in pocket, right? But they're a little concerned where they're going to go next and if they'll have enough time to coordinate that transportation of their personal goods. So if you, the buyer, offer them a lease back after the property's closed, right? So now you're the owner and you offer them a lease on the property, it buys them a little time in the house and they can feel more comfortable. And this doesn't just help the timeline, it helps them feel more comfortable with you. All right, I know I said top 5, but we're going to throw in bonus round. Guys, it's simple. Just ask. If you've got a buyer's agent with a little bit of personality, it can go a long ways. That buyer's agent is also building rapport with that listing agent, right? And if they're doing a good job on that rapport, it might be as simple as bluntly asking, how do we win this sucker? I've done it several times and it's always helped. The listing agent might be a little apprehensive at first, but after they kind of understand what the question was and they have a chance to talk with their sellers, they always come back and show us exactly what a win looks like. And if you, the buyers, are able to hear that and produce that, boom, we've got a winning contract. All right, if you guys are on the Treasure Coast and you would love to connect with me over Facebook, feel free to get right on up here and check out The Joe Rosen Show. And if you're on the gram, get over here and check out at The Joe Rosen Show. All right, guys, as always, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you guys stay fired up.